So,
All right.
how things been this week?
Well, it's only Monday, and let's see. I have some pretty good challenges already on my plate, but we're just marching right through them.
Right. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you got a broken pipe, huh?
Yeah. In more ways than one.
So, yeah, I guess I see the different background today.
Yeah. I sent you a notice on that because it's not that I couldn't do it in there, but it's still mushy. And right behind me in the old videos is where they tore the wall apart
Yeah.
to access the old sink that used to be in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
well, so I can still get the book and things like that over the shoulder there,
Yeah.
good stuff. So,
Okay.
all right,
Ready?
sir.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Hey, welcome back to the best kept secret in supplements. And today we worked our way all up to number 7 now, Bob Burdekin. And as we've done in the previous episodes, we once again be talking to Dan Young, Country Doctor Nutritional Center. And the product that we're going to be taking a look at today is HP Paractive, which that's a product for controlling parasites and related problems that occur throughout the body to both adults and children. Now, Dan, from the information that you've already shared with me before we went on air, I was quite surprised as to, how much effect this can have on children. So welcome, Dan.
Bob, thank you so much for having me. I'm grateful. We're lucky number 7 tonight.
Yeah. And I'm pleased to say that we're getting into many areas that basically have been uncharted territory to the mainstream type medical people and to many people as far as when it comes to their health and their health management. These are areas they don't really even know that exist. And
Yeah,
I know that many people who are listening and watching, they've never even considered the effects of parasites within their bodies. And I know from past situations that this is an area that many people don't even realize that they could have a problem with. And what has been your experience in presenting this topic to your clients in the clinic?
It's really great opening point for our discussion. The exposure that we get to environmental parasites is extremely high for several reasons, primarily 2, but there's several that go into the both of those. One is that we worm everything in our planet when it comes to animals. Our horses, our dogs, our sheep, our cats, our goats, our chickens in the feed. There's some form of anti-parasitic type nutrient that's found, or herb, in some cases even chemicals, found in how we handle these animals. And so we're driving these things out of the animals, but nobody in America understands the importance of a human cleanse on a regular basis. So that's the big thing that's happening. The second is that most people, 2 generations back, for sure 3 generations back, you didn't open your home to your barnyard animals. You didn't allow dogs and cats to run around and live in your bed and sleep with you and lick your face and ride around in your car everywhere you go. So we have a situation where we've invited, for lack of better terms, the barnyard critters into our homes and into our living spaces, even our bedrooms, by having the pets there, who usually get a once or twice a year dose of some type of worming, approach or cleanse, but we don't ever think to do ourselves, and we become the host for that pathology.
Yeah, okay. Well, Dan, in the opening statement, I mentioned the information that you sent me, and it truly opened my eyes on how parasites can affect the health of children. Would you go over that for our listeners and viewers, just to sort of clarify that area?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great topic. And it's something that a lot of parents have children who've dealt with this even as they were little, or maybe even in their teens. Several different things can manifest physically from the activity of needing to do a parasite cleanse support. Night terrors, fear, mental cognitive function, behavioral concerns, night sweats, lousy sleep patterns, bedwetting, okay? Just to name a few, skin rashes or itchy spots. Mommy and daddy, no matter what I eat, my tummy hurts. No matter what you feed the child, it just seems to always bother them, okay? These are strong and substantiated indicators Actually, pattern recognition for 20 years of working with people and their children and their animals that shows us that these are just some of the few most common things that children especially can go through and experience. Oh, grinding of the teeth, naturally, just really gritting the teeth, restless, kids that kick and just move like run in their sleep, parents won't let them crawl in bed with them because they get the ribs kicked out of them. Things
Right.
of that nature. These experiences are not behavioral. They're a byproduct of the behavior or the presence of a parasite in the gut and the GI tract.
Well, I know you've also done a lot of work with children with ADHD. Is it kind of related to this thing too?
Thank you very much for leading into that. Yes, the notion of ADD, ADHD in kids usually always boils down to one of three things: lack of omega essential oils in the omega 3s in the oil category, lousy sugar controlled diet, with means lousy digestion. Actually, they're enzymes because they're not eating whole food. And then thirdly, yes, is parasites. So those are the top three things that we've seen for decades in helping kids who have been told they have ADD or ADHD.
Oh, well, that's something people don't even think about, I'm sure. Once again, I've got to refer back to what many people base things on, and that's conventional medicine. And conventional medicine, it's their lack of attention in this area for both adults and especially children. So what would cause them to be that way?
Well, their lack of expertise is in actual healthcare. Okay. Their expertise, the schooling, the procedures, the approaches and tests, the pharmaceuticals, and the specialty professionals in different branches of medicine is all driven to be a symptom suppression approach and disease care or disease management. That's not true healthcare. Healthcare has a beginning point of providing proper support so
Right.
that the next phase is that person is stable, they're doing better and they know it. So the long-term restoration of function can actually occur. The modern disease management model does not embrace any of that as part of the approach that they're using for care.
Oh, I see. Since we covered so many situations that can become evident in children, I'm sure there's just as many, if not more, that can affect the adult population. What are some of those situations?
I forgot to mention, and all the things that I mentioned earlier were definitely with kids, but then now you're getting into the adults, you're getting into metabolic dysfunction, type 2 diabetic situation, chronic liver stress, hormonal imbalances, chronic immune challenges, repetitive strep, and repetitive other areas that the underlying issue and cause women with lymphatic tissue, like breast tissue problems and lumps in the lymph nodes, fatty cysts, benign fatty cysts. I discovered this on me. My background. I grew up on a ranch, grew up
Oh,
around
yeah.
animals.
Hmm.
I had fatty cysts terribly. My grandfather, Vincent both had fatty cyst issues. My mother, Joy, had those. And I also had them. And we always thought, well, it's a hereditary factor. But what we also did that connected our family, hereditary tree, so to speak, is that we also had the same living environment. We were constantly around horse manure and cow manure and out in the barn and playing with animals and had pets and goats. And so the byproduct of long-term parasitic activity is we've also discovered, especially with me, the fatty cyst issue, though they've almost completely disappeared on my torso. I cut out all grains and I do a regular parasite cleanse protocol, minimum twice a year, and sometimes even as much as 4 times a year, once every change of season, to really balance that out.
Yeah. Okay. Knowing all the things that can be affected by a parasite problem, why don't you go over the Country Doctor product HP Paractive, explain what the product is, what's contained within it, and I understand it's available in 2 different forms. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you. What a great lead in for that, Bob. I appreciate it. So there is the CDH capsule version, and then there's the HP Paractive version. This is the liquid version. Their features basically is the liquid is very transmucosal, gets in the system much faster than a tablet version. But some people, just for whatever reason, will not embrace nature's whole goodness in terms of flavor. And so, the liquid is going to be a bit more effective, I believe. And when you look at the ingredients here, we're talking about black walnut, wormwood, clove, sage, and fennel, along with a little bit of papaya and male fern. Synergistically, what we're talking about is a formula that's going to not only the environmental type cleanse that needs to happen, small type parasite, also it's going to help with long-term use. And I say long-term, 6 to 8 weeks of rotational approaches. The larger type that actually can, I know this is going to sound gross to the viewers, it can lay eggs. Okay. We can have parasites having parasites actually inside us. Okay. So when we think about the therapeutic action that's available with this, we talk about the environment. Not only will this help to make the environment so it will not support current or future parasite activity, but with long-term use and the right, dare I say, go back to the bowel cleanse and clean up the debris left behind, it makes it that much harder for future activity to develop from parasites.
Okay. Actually, getting between the two products are two different methods of dispensing it. We've run into a lot of people out here in California that don't want to take tablets or capsules. So they end up taking the tinctures and they find out that it works much better.
Yeah.
They're so ignorant about tinctures out here. They don't even know what they are. They ask, what are they?
It's interesting that you're bringing that up. And I think this really goes in line with your philosophy and labeling of these series, the best kept secret. Tinctures have a much better delivery system to the nervous system, to the digestive tract. It can go transmucosal into the system when you swish it for a while. The extraction process, I feel, is already done. So you don't rely so much on digestion. Not that these aren't effective. These are very effective.
Right.
Okay. But you don't have to rely so much as a byproduct of waste. The potency, I believe, is a little more effective. And so for the old term bang for the buck, right?
Right.
You're going to invest in a good cleanse, and both are wonderful cleanses. But I think you're going to get a much better response with the tincture version as a delivery system. That's really all tincture is. It's a different delivery system, but it's much more bioavailable for the body to use.
Well, I found once I started using tinctures that even the stronger tinctures that are out there with Country Doctor, they're not that difficult to take. You can handle the taste very easily. So,
yeah, the one we spoke about last week on the lymph detox, that chaparral herb that's in the lymph detox tincture, that's got the most kick, I think, of anything in our product line, and I can handle it for the most part as well. So yeah, you get used to it. The palate changes.
My wife takes that straight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I know you touched on this a few minutes ago, but is there any people that are more prone to have an ongoing problem in the area of parasites? And if so, what special recommendations for that kind of person would you suggest?
Great question. Thank you for touching on this. This didn't even occur to me to bring it up. So it's really a good question. There are two specific areas where we see repetitive recurrence. Besides people that have pets, and we're not asking you to get rid of Fido, we're not saying get rid of the dog. Just know that you're going to have to do them a little more often, probably once a quarter minimum. Okay. And you may have to do 2 or 3 bottles to get through a thorough cycle of cleansing. But the other two is, number one, bowel toxicity and impurities. So they need to do the bowel cleansing. Okay. They might need to do a little additional bowel cleansing to detoxify the gut, and digestive residues that stick around and feed the pathology. Okay. The byproducts of food, faulty metabolized oils and meats and carbs, things of that nature. We've got a 26-foot of piping here. We need to be breaking these foods down properly. And so enzymes or super enzymes, depending on the person and the need, but better digestion, better purification with the cleansing, and then cycling through those are going to be 2 to 3 key things for some folks to really pay close attention to.
Okay. So within your clinical setting, say on an average, how many of your clients appear to have one or more of the possible symptoms that we've discussed so far?
Most everybody that we meet initially has between 3 and 5 of those things going on. Now, because of the way we use kinesiology to evaluate and put them in priority, we may or may not address those things right up front, or instead of it being an environmental parasite, it could be an internal overgrowth of yeast, which is still a parasite family. Okay. So in
Okay.
essence, to answer your question, quite honestly, we find this on about every person that we first work with.
Well, that's really amazing, just to see that kind of response within the public. And with so
Yeah.
many people showing that type of response to one or more of the symptoms that we've discussed, would you say that it's a situation that our listeners and viewers, even if they're not clients of yours, they need to be aware of this?
Yeah, there's so many things that they can do. They can do some yeast fungus testing at home to see if there's some physical evidence of imbalances or a pH that would support a lot of this type of growth. Also simple non-invasive saliva as well as a urine test at home that they can use for additional self-evaluation
Okay.
to kind of get an idea.
All right. And Dan, there's so many areas that can be affected by this one condition that I'm sure that we haven't even been able to cover all of them, but making people aware of what we have covered so far is probably a good starting point, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think we're off to a great start. There's no question that everybody we know at one time or another during the course of a year will benefit greatly and have these mystery symptoms kind of thing taking place that they just can't quite figure it out. The parasite cleanse is really on the top 3 to 5 things to always consider in every case.
So, we've covered a lot of ground today on this one topic, mainly because there's so many health concerns that can become evident and satisfied with just one of the country doctor products. Then and it could possibly be any other symptoms that we failed to cover so far or that you want to bring up or.
The biggest one that I find is really fascinating to me is the adult version of heartburn, chronic heartburn, no matter what they do. They don't have a hiatal hernia. They've changed their diet. They've done all these different things. And no matter what, they just have this little bit of nagging heartburn situation going on. My experience has been to really lean towards doing a good, HP Proactive cleanse and see if that doesn't really take care of that problem.
I know that many people have learned a tremendous amount here today, listening to what we've had to share and how it can affect their health and their overall lifestyle. This is one of those rarely discussed topics that people always seem to avoid, but they need to have a better understanding of. Wouldn't you agree, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be very valuable to all your viewers.
And what we've covered here today reminds me of a discussion that I heard with your father, Sam Young, the founder of the Country Doctor program and all the herbal-based products. And he gave that back 10 or 12 years ago. He also covered the topic of parasites and how it affects the human body. And it brings to light the problem of parasites has been one that's been around for a long time and has continued to grow more with each decade.
Yeah.
And so, once again, we're getting to the point where we need to start to wrap up this week's podcast. And after what's been shared here today, I'm looking forward to our time together next week, Dan. So what's on the horizon for next week?
I believe next week we're going to bounce into heavy metal detox. Did we already cover that?
Yes, we did last week.
We already covered heavy metal detox. Well, let's just go through the list for all those that haven't had a chance to watch the podcast yet. We did ICF 1 and 2 with superfood.
Right.
We did liver, gallbladder, kidney, lymphatic, parasite, and heavy metal tincture, and then parasite, correct?
Right.
Now, thank you that I ran through that list for all the videos that are out there for folks to clue into and get some really good education. We're going to go into immune system support, specifically in either the viral category or the yeast category. Bob, which would you prefer?
Why don't we start with the yeast category?
Let's start with
I think that would be covering more territory for people initially.
Let's do that.
Their interest up.
Yep. Our next video is going to go dive deep into the yeast protocol. We've got a lot of great resources there, along with the HP yeast redux and the CDH version, capsule version of yeast redux.
Okay.
And we'll go from there.
Okay. So once again, I want to remind our viewers, both returning and new, that we upload that new podcast every Monday. And if you haven't already done so, Please like, share, subscribe, as well as give us a thumbs up to help the algorithm. And do hit the notification bell to be able to be notified when we do that upload. And along with hitting the like button, all of those actions are what's making this series grow so much in popularity. So until next week, when Dan and I will bring you more of the best kept secrets and supplements, be safe and be healthy.